Yo, what is up everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel, and in this video I'm going to be setting my lineups across my 3 fantasy football leagues heading into week 14 of the 2020 fantasy football season, and I'm going to be making some start-sit decisions and dealing with some injuries, and hopefully as you guys see me set my lineups, it'll help you set your lineups heading into this week 14 matchup, which is probably a playoff matchup for most of you guys if you're watching this video. There is one league that I'm going to be going over where it is not quite yet the playoffs, but in the 2 other leagues it is the playoffs. We got half PPR, non-PPR, redraft, dynasty, 1 quarterback, 2 quarterback, all sorts of good stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the first league, and this is a 12 team non-PPR league. So this is our starting lineup right here that we have so far, but we are going to make a few changes to this lineup. Before we do that, here is my matchup from last week. I was able to beat this team pretty thoroughly. There are the box scores right there for each of our teams. As you can see, had some good starts, some not so good starts, but overall, my team had a very solid week. And David Montgomery, he had a very good week last week, and I made a separate video about him in my most recent video right before I posted this one. It was a start-sit video, and David Montgomery was one of my starts of the week, so he will be remaining in my lineup. And then here's our matchup for the week. He is going to be without Julio Jones, so that is one thing to take into consideration because Julio is out, and there are also implications for Matt Ryan that I will talk about later in this video, but he'll probably put T.Y. Hilton in there or something like that, so we'll have to see. As far as transactions go, this is a tip for you guys if you haven't already done this, is I don't need a lot of these guys on my team, like Kalen Ballage with Eckler coming back, Justin Jackson coming back. Ballage isn't really necessarily needed on my roster. It's not. I kind of like to have a handcuff running backs of stud running backs, especially at the end of the season. But Madison, I think he had like some sort of surgery. He's going to be out for like another, couple weeks, I believe. So I ended up dropping those 2 guys, and I picked up 2 defenses. I picked up the Carolina Panthers defense to start this week. I'll go over that once I show you my lineup. But they are playing the Denver Broncos, and then the Cleveland Browns. I paid up quite a bit of fab dollars, 26 out of 200 fab dollars. And that is not for this week, but that's to get ahead because week 15 and 16, they got the Giants and the Jets. So I don't need to save my fab, I need to spend it now, make sure I can put my team in the best position to win. And you might be thinking, well, now you have 3 DSTs. Well, hey man, I need these defenses so that I can have a good defense to start rather than like a 5th string running back that I'm never going to use. So that's just a tip that I have for you guys. If you don't need to start someone, you do not plan on starting someone on your bench, they're just way down at the bottom and you're never going to play them, I would recommend picking up like a defense or just, forecasting ahead, just so you can kind of get ahead of like, the waiver wire curve and make sure you're set for the future weeks. So with that being said, let's set this lineup here. Enough rambling. So we got Taysom Hill at quarterback against the Eagles. I feel pretty all right about this matchup. He does have some rushing upside, and if he can run into the end zone, maybe throw a passing touchdown, I think he'll be decent. I don't necessarily like love the play, but I don't really have any better options. So we're obviously going to start David Montgomery. This is a great matchup against the Houston Texans. So to me, he's an RB1 this week, like legitimately. Like you almost have to put him in your lineup unless you have like unbelievable running backs. Chris Carson against the Jets, that's a smash play. Lockett against the Jets. Lockett has been pretty cold lately, but he's always capable of a big game, and you just can't bench him, especially in this matchup. Again, unless your receiving core is just absolutely insane. So I'm going with Lockett. And then here's where we are going to make a change. Instead of playing Chase Claypool at Buffalo, I'm going to start Chris Godwin against Minnesota. I am a Vikings fan, but I do have to admit that this is a better matchup. This is a very good matchup for Chris Godwin. And Godwin, he's just been pretty good lately. I will take a look at his box score. He's been getting some consistent yardage. He had a touchdown in week 11. So, I mean, Chase Claypool, yardage-wise, he has really actually been pretty not that great lately. He does still have a nose for the end zone. And to further expand on Chase Claypool, I do have to decide between him and Raheem Mostert. And like I said, this is a standard league. I am going to go with Raheem Mostert. Both of these guys, so with Raheem Mostert, the matchup is very tough against Washington. If he can break away a big play, that would be ideal. Last week he only had 9 carries, but that game really got away from the 49ers. They had to abandon the run. I'm hoping in this game against Washington, even though I don't forecast it to be a high-scoring game, I'm hoping that it'll at least be close enough where Mostert is consistently involved. Hopefully he'll catch at least a few passes here and there. He had 1 receiving yard last year, none the week before, but with Chase Claypool, I read this thing. He played something like 43.7% of the snaps last week, Chase Claypool did. So I'm not sure what that's about, but a touchdown dependent guy who saw a very small snap percentage last week. Yeah, it just makes me nervous playing Chase Claypool. He's already struggling to get yardage, and he's already touchdown dependent. And if he's not going to be in the game that much, maybe it was just a fluke. Hopefully his snaps go back up. And if if Chase Claypool does produce in this game, he has a nice matchup with Cincinnati next week. So if Chase Claypool plays well, then maybe we'll put him back in the lineup next week. But for now, this is what I'm going to be rocking with. And yeah, if I do make any changes to this lineup or any of the other lineups that I'm going to go over in this video, I'll put it in a comment down below, and I will also edit it in the description of this video. And then at tight end, I think I'm going to stick with TJ Hockenson against Green Bay versus, I'm certainly not playing Zach Ertz in a terrible matchup against the Saints. The Saints defense has been incredible lately. I just don't want any part to do with the Eagles offense this week with the rookie quarterback, Jalen Hurts, taking over. Evan Ingram against the Cardinals, I mean, he's a decent play, but Hockenson, he's been so good this year. I really just don't want to go away from him at this point. We're going to stick with Young Wei Koo at kicker against the Chargers. I believe he is the #1 kicker on the season, so I'm just going to stick with him. Yep, #1 overall. So we're not going to go away from that stud. And then at defense, we have 3 of them, like I said. We are going to play the Carolina Panthers against Denver, who give up the second most points to defenses, at least with this league scoring. So I think that's a very, very solid play. And then I also kept the Bears. I talked about how I have 3 defenses. I added the Panthers and the Browns. I also have the Bears because one thing I forgot to mention about adding these defenses ahead of time is that you're also playing keep away from other teams. So they have a matchup with Jacksonville in week 16. So if I do make it to the championship, my opponent will not be able to pick up the Bears DST and play them against me because they are on my team. So with that being said, let's move on to this next team here. And I forgot to mention, did I mention this is a playoff matchup? This league is in the playoffs. I was the 4 seed, 8-5, going up against the 5 seed. All right. So now let's move on to this right here. This is a 10-team auction league. This league is not yet in the postseason. We still have 1 more week left. 4 out of the 10 teams make the playoffs. So I am fighting for a playoff spot. I'll show you the standings here, but this is my matchup from last week. We lost pretty good. I mean, it just wasn't a good week for me, I suppose. We didn't have James Conner, so that was tough, but it is what it is. Now this is our matchup this week. This is my team over here. This is his team, and then there's our benches. So he has some good plays, but Miles Sanders against New Orleans and Gio against Dallas. Gio could be a decent play because it's a decent matchup. Miles Sanders, he's always capable of having a big game because of his explosiveness, but I'm not too worried about his running backs. We'll have to see how they play during their games, though. So these are the transactions that we made this week. I pretty much just added Jalen Hurts for 7 out of 200 fab dollars and dropped Alex Smith. Not to start him this week, but just to kind of play keep away from my opponents, because if Jalen Hurts, he has running ability, and this is a 2-quarterback league, by the way, so all quarterbacks have a lot of value in this league. And what else did we do here? Is that it? Oh, we added Kiki QT for 3 out of 200 fab bucks. And yeah, that's it. Nothing too crazy. And then, like I said, I will show you the standings in this league. So why can't I find the standings? There we go. Here are the standings, if they ever load. My computer's being really slow for some reason. Wow, that literally took like a full 30 seconds to load. But anyways, here are the standings. I'm currently the number 4 seed. Like I said, only 4 teams make the playoffs. So at 7-6, there's 1 team that's 7-6, 2 teams that are 6-5. If we look at the points for, I'm 3rd in the league. So I'm actually comfortably ahead all these other teams. So I pretty much have to lose, and this team has to win in order for me to miss the playoffs, I believe. Unless, one of these teams like drastically outscores me, which I suppose is possible. But so that's kind of my situation. So this is the lineup right here. I'll just kind of quickly go through this. I'm going to stick with Kyler Murray against the Giants, even though Murray hasn't been himself lately, but I'm just going to stick with him, especially because I don't really have any better options. And then this is a huge blow, like I said, to Matt Ryan's fantasy outcome, or possible outcomes, I should say, is Julio Jones is missing this game. And Matt Ryan without Julio Jones is typically a little bit of an iffy situation. Let's just say that. So Jared Goff already played against the Patriots. He didn't really do that well. And I have no other options other than Jalen Hurts against the Saints. And while I do not necessarily love Matt Ryan without Julio Jones, I still like him more than Jalen Hurts against the Saints. So it is what it is. I'm going to have to stick with Matt Ryan. And then in this flex spot, speaking of the Falcons, we are going to be rolling out Calvin Ridley. He should see a fair share of targets without Julio Jones in the lineup there. And then at my other wide receiver spots, we got Amari Cooper against Cincinnati, Tyreek Hill against Miami, and Allen Robinson against Houston. Those are all smash plays. I'm very, very happy with my wide receiver core this week. DJ Moore is out this week. He's on the COVID list, I believe, against Denver. So he would be someone that I would have looked at possibly playing too. I probably would have benched him out of all of these guys, though. So that's how high I am on all of these guys. And then at running back, we got James Conner against Buffalo. I mean, Connor's been a little bit cold lately. He's also missed a couple games, a game or two, but hopefully he can at least get in the end zone. And then Melvin Gordon against Carolina. Yeah, I mean, we don't really have any other options, honestly. So that's kind of what we're doing. I did think about picking up Cam Akers a couple weeks ago. I didn't get him in time. And then this most recent week, he got picked up for like 30-something fab dollars, and I didn't bid enough. So I wish I would have picked him up sooner. And then at tight end, we're going to be starting Rob Gronkowski against Minnesota over Evan Ingram against Arizona. I don't necessarily, I have decided to not start Evan Ingram in either of these two leagues that I already went through. It's not because I hate Evan Ingram this week or anything, but I just think Hockenson and Gronk are kind of better plays. And then finally, here is our last league. This is a league that is in the playoffs. This is a dynasty league, one quarterback. We got a bunch of flexes, a bunch of wide receiver spots, big benches. So we'll have to, get started looking at this league here. But this is last week. I would have won, except Clyde Edwards-Helaire took a sick day, even though he was technically active. I could have played McKissic, who I said in my last week's video that was like this one, just setting my lineups for week 13. I said if Clyde Edwards-Helaire was ruled out, I would have played JD McKissic. I have it on camera, and I ended up losing by a little less than 7 points. So if Clyde just would have been ruled out, I would have played McKissic, or if Clyde would have been ruled out earlier in the day, it would have had to be before McKissic's game. But I would have played McKissic and I would have won. And then if I didn't play McKissic, I would have played Marvin Jones, who had an even better game, but I would have played McKissic. Either way, I would have won, so that's annoying. One thing to be proud of last week was that I did decide to play Cam Newton over Alex Smith, Matt Ryan, and Mitch Trubisky, and that was the best choice. Thankfully, spoiler, I did not play Cam Newton this week, so we have that to be thankful for. But yeah, that is last week's matchup right there. Now we can move on to this week's matchup, and one thing to note is that my opponent did already play Darrell Henderson on the Thursday game, and he had 0.5 fantasy points. So that's actually going to play a role in how I set my lineup this week. I don't like to, use that kind of logic too much. Like, oh, my opponent is off to a bad start. I don't like to use that kind of thinking to adjust my lineup too much, but it is something you have to be aware of, I think, just to kind of have some context for what you're doing. So I'll touch on that in a little bit, but at quarterback, I am starting Tom Brady against Minnesota over Matt Ryan against the Chargers. I decided to not play Cam Newton. Thank goodness he had less than 5 points. I'm going to roll with Clyde Edwards-Helaire against Miami. Even though he goosed last week, he didn't play at all, even though he was active. I'm hoping and thinking, unless something really weird happens, he will be back. He will be playing. And Jonathan Taylor, my other top rookie pick against Las Vegas. I like him a lot this week. It's a good matchup, and, he caught a nice touchdown last week. So as long as the Colts don't do anything funky with the touches and give him like 5 carries, he should be good. Knock on wood, because giving him 5 carries it's in the cards. You never know what the Colts are going to do with their running backs. I'm starting James Conner against Buffalo in this league as well. And then McKissic is kind of the person I was referencing when I said my opponent only having 0.5 points from Darrell Henderson, how that would impact my lineup. Because of that, I am going to go with JD McKissic. He was also in my start of the week video because I love McKissic this week without Gibson playing for the Washington football team. I already love McKissic's floor just week to week because of his PPR involvement. And this is a half PPR league, by the way. 10 teams, half PPR dynasty. I don't know if I mentioned all that yet, but so especially without Gibson, I think it just makes him even safer in a half PPR league especially. And then the guys that I'm kind of playing him over, well, first of all, here's the receivers I'm playing. I'm obviously playing Hopkins, Amari Cooper, and Chris Godwin. Those guys are all smash plays to me this week. So the only guys that I was really deciding between were at this flex spot, right? It would have been McKissic, Miles Sanders, and yes, I am playing McKissic over Miles Sanders. I do talk about Miles Sanders even more extensively in that Week 14 running back start sit video, if you do want to check that out. I'm starting McKissic over Miles Sanders, over Gio, over Justin Jackson, over Marvin Jones, Mike Williams, and Deebo Samuel. So that's how much I like McKissic this week. And let's just say Darrell Henderson came out and had a massive game. That is where I might actually consider playing a guy like Marvin Jones or Mike Williams or Deebo Samuel. But I just love how safe McKissic is this week. I mean, how safe I think he's going to be, at least. There have been several games where he's gotten double-digit targets, and he catches a lot of his targets. So that's why I love him in PPR this week. Marvin Jones, I also like this week, although it is a tough matchup. I can't remember the cornerback's name for the Packers, but it is he's really good, and he's going to be matched up with him, I believe. I'll find that in 1 second here, but without Kenny Golladay, hopefully Marvin Jones will see some targets, and he should be a solid play unless Jair Alexander, that's his name. He's been having a great season, so if they're matched up, he might make Marvin Jones' day pretty tough, but that's why I'm kind of just rolling with McKissic. Mike Williams, I also don't hate. It was a bad week for the Chargers overall last week against the Patriots. They got destroyed. Mike Williams, he could always catch a good long pass against Atlanta. That matchup certainly doesn't scare me whatsoever. And then Deebo Samuel, I think he's just pretty secure. Like Washington, I don't expect this to be a high-scoring game. It's the same game that McKissic is in. Deebo and McKissic are both typically targeted near the line of scrimmage. Yeah, I mean, Deebo and McKissic are both solid plays this week. Like I honestly wish I could fit Marvin Jones, Mike Williams, and Deebo into my lineup somehow, but it's just not going to work. So I wouldn't be surprised if McKissic is outscored by, at least one of these guys, but I think McKissic is very, very safe. So that's why I'm rolling with him. And yeah, that's kind of where we are so far in all of our leagues. Those are kind of all the lineups I'm setting. Oh, I forgot to go over my tight end and DST here. I am starting Dallas Goedert against the New Orleans Saints. Look how slow my computer is. There we go. So yeah, this is where we are in the standings. We finished with a losing record, but we made the playoffs with a 6-7 record. Points for, holy moly, my computer is bugging right now. I think I was 6th in points for as well. So I finished right where I finished my record. I finished with the same record that I should have had based on my points scored, if that makes sense. 6th and 6th in both. But as I was saying before, I checked the standings. I am playing Dallas Goedert against the Saints, even though, like I said, it's a tough matchup. Rookie quarterback George Kittle is injured for me, so I'm going to be playing Dallas Goedert instead of a guy like Trey Burton or Dalton Schultz or Jonnu Smith, who I thought Jonnu was going to have a big season, but he fell off quite a bit. And then for DST, do I play? You know what? I think I might play. I think I'm going to play the Chargers instead of the Bears, because Atlanta without Julio Jones, that is going to be tough for the Falcons. They often play pretty poorly without Julio, so I could see the Chargers maybe having a couple good plays. Houston's offense, I mean, they're pretty good, so that's tough. That's a tough one, but I think I'm going to go with the Chargers. I don't really love either defense this week, but this is a Dynasty league, like I said, so there are not a lot of options on the waiver wire. In fact, I believe there are no free agent defenses in this league, so that's what we're going to roll with. And I didn't show you my transactions in this league because I didn't make any this week, because like I said, it's a Dynasty league, and there's really not a lot on the waiver wire, nothing that I needed to add. So yeah, that is me setting my week 14 lineups. I hope that kind of helped you guys maybe make some decisions. I talked about a little strategy with adding some defenses, blocking your opponents from adding defenses, and kind of forecasting ahead to see if maybe you can pick someone up now that you might use in like the championship game if you do make it that far. And that goes for other positions as well, not just defenses, but I feel like that's just kind of something that can be overlooked, is stocking up on defenses and just kind of getting ahead of the game so that you're not week by week just trying to be the highest bidder on these defenses. You can get ahead of your opponent, and even if you have 2 defenses that you like on your team, or 3 even, that you like the matchups for moving forward, it doesn't matter that you can't play all of them. You're making it so you're blocking your opponent from being able to play them against you, right? So yeah, I thought we went over a lot of stuff in this video. Hopefully you were able to get at least something out of it. And hopefully if your playoffs started, I wish you guys the best of luck. I'm kind of nervous, but I think we're looking pretty good across our leagues. This league in particular, I really love my team. It just is very unfortunate that we are without McCaffrey. I forgot to mention that I said I'm dealing with injuries across some of these leagues. I didn't really touch on them that much, but McCaffrey and Breeze in this league, that's why we're kind of starting like Taysom Hill. And if we were playing McCaffrey, I would obviously play him over Mostert or Claypool in the flex. So, yeah, we made it though. We made it to the playoffs, so that is all that matters. Enough rambling. I am excited to start this Week 14 matchup here pretty soon. So good luck to all you guys in Week 14. And thank you guys for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more fantasy football content. And I'll see you guys later. Peace out.